לחרות ציון, for the liberty of Zion. The people of Israel fought the battle to save their country in 69, and they had little help from the Romans there. Now, we are gracious for your support. And there's no word in English that I found in the dictionary for hakarat hatov. But we are in a real debt for your support as a nation, and I think there's not enough crowd in Israel who can gratitude this to you. So thank you very much for being part of us and helping us, and I think we should applaud Douglas. מדינת ישראל הוגדרה בלפחות 2000 שנים האחרונות בהגדרה שלילית. הוגדרנו על ידי האויבים שלנו. היינו עסוקים בלשרוד. היינו עסוקים בלהגיד מי אנחנו לא. גם כשקמה מדינת ישראל בפועל, מדינת ישראל הוגדרה גם על ידי האויבים שלה. חיפשנו מקלט. ועכשיו יש לנו הזדמנות היסטורית של לפחות 2000 שנה, אולי אפילו יותר, לשנות את מסלול ההיסטוריה של העם היהודי ושל מדינת ישראל, ולהגיע למצב שלמדינת ישראל אין אויבים. יש לנו הזדמנות היסטורית לשגשג, לפרוח. אבל הזדמנויות צריך לדעת לממש. אנחנו צריכים להפסיק את ההרגל המגונה הזה שיש לנו, ההרגל המגונה של הדחיינות. לדחות את האתגרים, את העימותים, את הקונפליקטים, או בעצם לקחת הלוואות מהילדים שלנו, מהדורות הבאים, ניתן להם לטפל בבעיות. זה הרגל מגונה מאוד. אנחנו צריכים לקחת אחריות על גורלנו, כמו שהאבות המייסדים של המדינה לקחו אחריות על הגורל של העם היהודי, ולשנות את ציר ההיסטוריה. כדי להפוך את המדינה הזאת לטובה יותר, ואולי אפילו לשנות את ציר ההיסטוריה של העולם. וזו המשמעות של הערב הזה, של האירוע המיוחד הזה שאתם פה היום. האירוע הזה שמבקש להציג בפניכם ולהציע לכם, לאמץ גישה חדשה למצב של מדינת ישראל. Please join me in welcoming the one and only Ben Shapiro.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Israel has to completely restructure its economy. If you wish to be a strong nation, a strong state, the economy of the state of Israel has to be built around innovation. It cannot be built around redistribution. It cannot be built around taking other people's wealth and using it for your own purposes. The ethos of a civic militarism requires that everybody put in their 2 cents and that everybody be able to retain that which they have built and then build for the future. Everybody, not some, everybody. You know, I don't just exist, obviously, in the media world, I also exist in the business world. And you have no idea, truly no idea, how many people I speak to, billionaires, investors, tech bros, who are dying to invest in Israel, and it's very difficult to invest in Israel. It's very difficult, not because of the geopolitical situation. They're sanguine about the geopolitical situation. It's because it's actually quite difficult to invest. The regulations and the red tape here are insane, and they need to be done away with. You don't need to have a cousin in one of the misrad in order to actually get something done in a functional state. That needs to change, and it needs to change radically. And then as for the warriors of Israel, the warriors of Israel have to be protected and they have to be made independent. This is something that you heard Mike speak about just a moment ago. Israel has to disconnect itself from the rest of the world in terms of aid. As an American, that's what's best for America. And as a member of Western civilization, it is good that Western nations be robustly capable of defending themselves without having to have their leash tugged on by a derelict dotard like Joe Biden. There's a young soldier who's here who I had the opportunity to meet a few months ago. It was by Shavuot time. We were here with my family. And Ari, are you here? Ari's in the crowd somewhere. Ari was wounded in Gaza. He was gravely wounded in Gaza. He lost a couple of limbs. And last time I saw him, he was in a mobile wheelchair. And we're coming out of davening on Shavuos, and somebody turned to me. I was walking next to him, and somebody turned to me, and they said thank you to me. They said, thank you for what you do. And I felt so terrible. Honestly, I felt awful, because I'm standing right next to somebody who actually did a thing, right? Somebody who actually did something. And then, as we're about to get in the Shabbos elevator, Ari turns to me and he says, I just have a quick question. I want to know, what more can I do? What more can I do? That's the ethos that's been uncovered in Israel in the middle of the gravest time in its history. And that's an ethos that needs to be carried forward, not just on behalf of Israel, not just on behalf of Jews who live abroad like me, on behalf of Americans, on behalf of the West more generally. That ethos, that lion ethos, has to be revitalized, it has to be reawakened. And you in this room, all your family members, all your compatriots, all the people of this country, you're the people to do it. Thank you so much.
ראיתי אנשים גיבורים שאין להם שום קרדיט. אף אחד לא יודע עליהם, אף אחד לא שמע עליהם. הם לא זכו לתוכנית טלוויזיה, הם לא זכו לשום דבר. הם והמשפחות שלהם והילדים שלהם קמו ועשו בלי לשאול שאלות. ואני שמח וגאה להציג פה דמויות שהן דוגמאות של עוד 150,000 איש, שהם רק מייצגים את מגש הכסף. ואני נותן להם עכשיו כמתנה בשם עם ישראל את המטבע הזה שהטבענו. המטבע שעליו יש ציור של חייל מנצח עם דגל ישראל, ולידו זקנה עם תינוק, 3 דורות שברקע ירושלים נבנית, מסתכלים קדימה על הדור הבא של מדינת ישראל, על הברית הבאה שעם ישראל חותם בנצח ישראל. אז אני גאה להזמין ראשון לבמה את סגן אלוף שמואל לבנון.
חולם על הצדקות, על 1000 צלקות, והנה עוד אחת. בבן המתפתח מבטיח לא להיות מושא לחרדות, וגם נשבע עכשיו להישאר פיקח. הראש כל כך מבוך, שנייה זוהם מיד נבוך, ולילד הזה אין מושג. רואה שטוב יש אהובה, תמיד מוקף באהבה, ובעת חרוניו ידאג מה אם אמא תיפגע, למה אבא לא נרגע.
Please join me in welcoming Mike Doran to the stage.
Thank you very much. That's a very warm welcome. The United States will set red lines. You have to cross them. My favorite conversation, my favorite thing that I learned about this war was when Defense Minister Gallant called up the Secretary of Defense Austin and said, "We just killed Nasrallah." And Austin said, "Excuse me? You did what?" is habitual line stepping. But look how brilliantly it was done. Look how brilliant the Prime Minister Netanyahu was. Nasrallah has American blood up to here on his arms. So as much as Austin hated it, he absolutely hated it, he couldn't say that. He couldn't stand before the American people. Ooh, my time is up. I'm going to be quick here, and I'm going to tell you, he couldn't stand before the American people and say, you shouldn't have done that. That's the way you cross a red line. You cross a red line with a lot of thought in a way that makes it difficult for those who want to restrict you in the United States to actually restrict you, and in a way that gives your friends in the United States the ability to make your case for you, because you have a lot of friends in the United States and they want you to win. And on that On that note, I'll make my closing remark. As you do this, as you pursue your national interest, while showing respect for the United States, but maintaining your freedom of action, you should know that you are the best ally of the United States. Whether the United States realizes it or not. There's a line there we hear over and over in the United States now. We have to save Israel from itself. I see it the opposite way. You have to save the United States from itself. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here.
Well, how does one introduce Douglas Murray? That is a great question, but I actually feel like I don't have much of a job to do, because I'm assuming that every single person in this room has been personally inspired and uplifted by Douglas Murray over the last year. It's true that Douglas has authored many books on many subjects. He's traveled the world. He's a journalist in the New York Post, the Spectator, the Times, many other places. But for us, we know that for us, he is the defender of the Jewish people. Ladies and gentlemen, Douglas Murray.
First of all, good evening, Jerusalem. When Doran and I were in Gaza a year ago, I actually just reminded you of this backstage, I said to him, well, I mean, I'm British, so we're used to small talk. And I think I said I was going to ask you, do you come here often? But, which is what the late Queen would have asked. Instead, I was diplomatic enough to say, when were you last here? And I remember your answer, and you told me you'd been here in 2005, taking family friends from their homes. And that stuck with me.
Your book, The Strange Death of Europe, about the transformations taking place in Europe. When I see those pictures and when we see those pictures, I think what's going through everyone's mind is Europe dead for the Jews?
Yes, my book, The Strange Death of Europe, came out 8 years ago now, and many people have said to me it's a rather depressing book to read, and I said you should have tried writing it. I don't often, I hope I don't often blow my own trumpet, but you know, the response to that book that meant the most to me was actually from my late friend, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. He did a public review of it, but he also wrote me a personal email, which meant a great deal to me. And one of the things he said in it was he quoted scripture, and he said, whether they listen or they fail to listen, they will know that a prophet stood among them. And I was so moved by that. And the sad thing for me, as well as I think Europe, is that they didn't listen at all. Everything that I said, and indeed have said for 20 years about the continent I'm from, they haven't listened. They've just made it worse and worse. And things like the scenes in Amsterdam the other week are so hurtful to me, in addition to the hurt, because I think, why didn't you listen? This is exactly what, and it didn't need a prophet, it doesn't need a prophet, it needs anyone with eyes to see the terrible decisions that have been made by generations of politicians in Europe to welcome in millions of people who don't like the society they're in. Now, many people who come do like the society they're in, and they need great encouragement, and the ones that do, of all backgrounds, deserve to be part of the society. But Europe has grown so weak that it cannot say what has to be said, which is that if you don't like our society, leave. And it's 13 years ago now since a very fine man called Frits Bolkestein, who used to lead the VVD party in the Netherlands, said, this is 13 years ago, he said, I think it might be time for the Jews to leave the Netherlands. And he did not mean it in anything other than a tone of sadness. And I remember writing an article at the time saying, no, the Jews of the Netherlands should not leave the Netherlands. It's the people who would make the Jews leave the Netherlands who should leave the Netherlands.
Thank you very much for Ben Shapiro and Douglas Murray. Applause. Thank you very much for this evening. Thank you very much for your support for the past year. Thank you very much for coming here tonight, and I hope to see you the next time here.